there are some places, they just feel mysterious, don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
And North Carolina's Brown Mountain, with its legendary ghost lights, it's definitely high on that list.
It really is.
For centuries, people have reported seeing these strange, wavering lights in the Appalachian foothills there. And it's a really compelling story. Draws you right in.
It absolutely does. And for listeners who've joined our previous deep dives, you might remember we looked into similar things, right?
Yeah, like Marfa.
Exactly. The Marfa lights in Texas or the Min Min light out in Australia. And in those cases, the explanation often came down to superior mirages.
Right, that optical illusion thing where the air bends light.
Precisely. Makes distant lights look like they're higher up, maybe floating even.
Okay, so that leads us to the big question for today's deep dive, doesn't it? Is Brown Mountain just, another mirage, a trick of the light?
Or is there something else going on, something unique?
Yeah, because what we found digging into the sources is, while it's surprisingly complex, turns out there are actually two pretty distinct versions, you could say. Yeah. Two types of Brown Mountain lights we need to unpack.
That's right. So our mission today really is to sift through all of it. The historical accounts, the legends, those rigorous scientific reports from the USGS.
Like U.S. Geological Survey.
Exactly. We want to try and unearth the truth behind these lights, give you that shortcut to being, really informed, separate the facts from the myths that just keep getting repeated.
Okay, let's do it. So first, let's set the scene. Geographically, we're in the Pisgah National Forest.
Yeah.
That's about, 110 kilometers northwest of Charlotte?
Roughly, yeah.
And Brown Mountain itself. This is surprising.
Yeah.
It's apparently hardly a mountain at all.
Right. It's more like a ridge, just part of the foothills there.
Yeah.
Highest points are barely 850 meters.
Not exactly Mount Everest, is it?
Not at all. And that detail, that geography, it's actually pretty important because Brown Mountain itself, it seems to have very little to do with where the lights actually show up.
Really? So where do people see them?
Well, the main viewpoints are places like Wiseman's View, that's about 13 kilometers west.
Yeah.
Lost Cove Overlook, 16K northwest. And there's a Forest Service overlook, too, about 8K away.
Okay.
And from those spots, Brown Mountain is just kind of like a smoky colored smudge on the horizon. That's how people describe it. The lights, when they're seen, they appear in the distance between the viewer and the mountain, not actually on Brown Mountain.
Okay, so they're not on the mountain, they're sort of floating in the air between you and the mountain.
That seems to be the description for the historical lights, yeah.
That changes things. There's that Forest Service sign at Wiseman's View. It really paints a picture of those older sightings. It says something like, weird wavering lights rise above this MTN, then dwindle and fade away.
Evocative language, yeah.
It is. But if people were seeing weird wavering lights way back when, what were they actually seeing?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Now, you often hear the modern local legend, the one about the Cherokee natives.
Oh, yeah. The bereaved wives searching for warriors with lanterns.
That's the one. But, it's interesting. Outside of book or articles specifically about the Brown Mountain Lights, you really don't find much historical reference to that specific legend. And, the whole lantern technology thing for ancient Cherokee, probably more likely torches, realistically.
Good point.
But here's the critical bit. Even that legend describes lights in the sky above the ridges, not flickering down on the hillsides. And that distinction, it's going to be important later.
Okay, noted. Lights in the sky. So, if the native legend is maybe not quite historically solid, what about early scientific explanations? I heard something about 1771, a cartographer.
Ah, yes, John William Gerard de Brom. He did offer an explanation. He proposed that the mountains emit nitrous vapors, which are borne by the wind.
Nitrous vapors.
Yeah, and when laden winds meet each other, the niter inflames, sulfurates, and deteriorates.
Sounds very science-y for the time. But what does it mean? Swamp gas.
Basically, yeah, an early swamp gas idea. But there are problems. For one, swamp gas doesn't just spontaneously burst into flames in nature like that.
Right.
And when scientists try to recreate it in labs, you get this quick, bright, bluish-green pop and black smoke. That just doesn't match the descriptions of these, slow-burning, hovering lights people reported.
Doesn't sound like a match at all.
But here, get this. This is where it gets really interesting. Maybe even a bit shocking.
Okay.
That quote from de Brom, the one about the vapors and niter that everyone uses, it's misquoted and completely taken out of context.
Wait, what? Seriously? This foundational explanation? It's wrong.
Not just wrong, it's not even about the Brown Mountain Lights at all.
Kidding.
No. We looked at his actual text. It's from his report of the General Survey in the Southern District of North America. He was talking about thunderstorms and air purity way over in the Great Smoky Mountains.
Nothing to do with Brown Mountain.
Absolutely nothing whatsoever. It's a frankly stunning example of how a piece of misinformation can just get repeated and repeated for centuries until it becomes accepted fact.
Wow. That completely changes the historical narrative. It really makes you wonder what else we just accept without checking.
Exactly.
Okay, so de Brom's theory is, well, it's irrelevant. So where do we go next?
Yeah.
The more modern, rigorous investigations.
Yeah.
The USGS reports.
Yes, exactly. The 1909 and 1922 U.S. Geological Survey reports, these give us a much, much more solid explanation for those historical hovering lights.
What did the 1909 one find?
Pretty straightforward, actually. The 1909 finding was that many sightings of the Brown Mountain Lights singular lined up perfectly with the headlight of a regularly scheduled locomotive, a train. Its headlight was visible from a hill about 6 miles beyond Brown Mountain, and it was due at precisely 9:53 p.m. every night.
9:53 p.m. That's specific.
Yep. And witnesses back then often reported seeing just one light, so it fits really well.
Okay, that's actually a beautifully simple solution for some of the sightings, at least. What about the 1922 report? That was H.C. Martin.
Right, H.C. Martin, he led that one. And initially, he was skeptical. He looked at the conditions and thought, nah, probably not right for superior mirages here.
So he didn't think it was mirages at first?
Not right away, but he kept investigating. And he found that actually that kind of light-bending refraction was happening pretty much every night, in fact.
Oh, wow. Where?
It was happening above the basin that's now Lake James. Back then, there were numerous little settlements down there, and they had electric lights just coming in.
Ah, electric lights.
Exactly. And those lights were routinely being refracted, bent upwards by the air layers, making them visible above the horizon from the overlooks.
So people were seeing mirages of town lights from the valley.
Seems like it. And it fits perfectly with other reports, too. Observers said the lights would vanish if you moved just slightly up or down the mountainside.
Why would that happen?
It indicates a very narrow angle of visibility. Martin calculated it was only about 3 or 4 degrees wide. Move outside that narrow band and the mirage disappears.
That is fascinating. So it really was atmospheric tricks playing on distant, man-made lights for those historical sightings.
That's what the evidence strongly points to. And the USGS research added more context. They found the lights only really became widely known around 1910.
Why then?
That's when a Reverend C.E. Gregory moved to the area and really started reporting them, publicizing them, even those native legends we talked about. They didn't show up in print until around that time either.
So before electric lights arrived in the early 1900s.
There's basically no solid documentary evidence of these widespread mysterious lights. Earlier sightings are mostly anecdotal, impossible to verify. It strongly suggests the phenomenon really took off once there were actual lights to be seen via mirage.
Okay, let's sum up the historical lights then. The 1922 USGS report concluded they were, quote, clearly not of unusual nature or origin.
Pretty definitive, yeah.
And they even broke down the sources. Get this, 47% automobile headlights.
Almost half.
33% locomotive headlights.
There's the train again.
10% stationary lights, like from those settlements, and 10% brush fires.
Which also happen, of course.
That is just remarkably thorough. Case closed for the classic lights.
For that specific phenomenon, the lights seen hovering above the ridges, historically, yes, the USGS presented a very compelling, mundane explanation. A great example of science demystifying something.
Okay, but that's not the end of the story, is it? Because there's this second type of light people report today.
Exactly. Now we shift gears. We're talking about the modern Brown Mountain Lights, the ones people see now, often from Wiseman's View.
And these are different.
Very different. People describe these as flickering lights under the trees, like people are wandering around waving flashlights. And crucially, they're seen directly on the face of the hills across Linville Gorge, not hovering in the sky.
So down on the ground among the trees.
Pretty much, yeah. And often reported roughly along the hiking trails over near Table Rock.
Table Rock. Isn't that a big climbing spot?
Huge. Probably the most popular rock climbing destination in the state, right across the gorge from Wiseman's View. It even has its own parking lot. Easy access.
Easy access for hikers and climbers. Maybe with headlamps or flashlights.
You're thinking along the right lines. Now, one explanation people have thrown out there is moonshine stills. reflections from the stills or their fires.
Moonshine stills. Really, across from the busiest overlook and right next to the most popular climbing area. Seems like a terrible place to hide an illegal operation.
Doesn't it, though? It's never been verified, obviously. And yeah, logically, it makes zero sense for a distiller trying to stay hidden.
Plus, lights on the ground contradict the old legends too, right?
Completely. The legends talk about lights in the sky. So, from an expert view, there are just no historical references to these ground-level flickering lights.
None at all.
No. These reports are almost entirely recent. You see them in YouTube videos, modern claims, and what era are we in now?
The era of super bright LED flashlights, headlamps, smartphones.
Exactly. So while these modern on-the-ground lights are technically unexplained in the sense that there isn't a specific scientific report debunking every single sighting,
they're also not particularly mysterious.
Frankly, no. Not especially interesting or surprising when you consider the location and the technology we all carry now.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. What does this deep dive tell us about the Brown Mountain Lights?
Well, it tells us there isn't one mystery, but two very different phenomena sharing the same name.
Right, the first one, the historical hovering lights. Largely explained by science. Mirages of trains, cars, town lights.
Solved quite elegantly by the USGS investigations, really.
And the second one, the modern flickering lights on the hillsides. Much more likely just, well, people. Hikers, climbers, campers with modern lights.
Seems the most logical conclusion, yes. Lacking any historical precedent and appearing only in the age of portable bright lights.
It's a fascinating lesson, isn't it?
Yeah.
How easily we can jump to wanting something to be mysterious and supernatural.
It really is. That eagerness for the wild, the sensational. It can sometimes make us overlook the real science, which is often just as wondrous, if not more so.
Like understanding how light bends through the atmosphere. That's pretty amazing in itself.
Absolutely. There's real excitement in understanding things like mirage refractions or finding those perfect solutions like the locomotive correlation. That's the real thrill of discovery.
So the message is maybe. Embrace critical thinking. Find the joy in figuring things out rather than just accepting the mystery.
I think that's a great takeaway. The discovery process is the adventure.
And here's something maybe for you, the listener, to think about after this.
Yeah, consider this. What other mysteries or maybe unexplained things you encounter in your own life? Could they have similarly fascinating but totally grounded explanations?
Explanations just waiting to be uncovered if we look closely enough.
Exactly. What assumptions are we holding on to, maybe just because the story sounds good, without really examining the evidence? Food for thought.